In this opening of Paradise Lost, John Milton awakens us in the aftermath of rebellion, where hell is first seen, defeat is named, and Satan's unbroken will begins to speak. Welcome to Chapter Breaks. Short literary escapes. Classic audio pills for your commute, bedtime unwind, or a break anytime. At Chapter Breaks, we carefully select and curate iconic passages from classic novels, scenes that are powerful, memorable, reflective, and a joy to listen to. Whether it's a timeless first chapter, a dramatic turning point, or a magical moment, each episode offers you the essence of great literature, one short escape at a time. This chapter break is Paradise Lost, by John Milton, 1667. Extract from Book 1. Satan Awakens in Hell. Defeat, resolve, and the birth of eternal rebellion. A brief introduction before listening to the chapter. This opening episode of Paradise Lost plunges us directly into the aftermath of catastrophe. Satan and his fallen angels lie stunned upon the burning lake, cast out from heaven after their failed rebellion against God. Around them stretches a new realm, darkness visible, a place of punishment, fire, and unending despair. As Satan regains consciousness, Milton presents one of literature's most complex and unsettling figures. Though defeated, Satan refuses submission. His speech is blaze with pride, wounded ambition, and unyielding will. Loss has not diminished his sense of self, instead, it sharpens it. From the ashes of defeat, a new resolve forms not to repent, but to oppose. Alongside Beelzebub, Satan surveys hell, rallies his scattered host, and declares a chilling philosophy: the mind is its own place, capable of making a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. Freedom, however bleak, is preferred to obedience. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. We are about to descend into hell, where defeat does not end ambition, and rebellion finds a new voice. Now let's open the page together. Your chapter break begins now. Book 1. Of man's first disobedience, and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world, and all our woe, with loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us, and regain the blissful seat, sing heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Oreb, or of Sinai, didst inspire that shepherd, who first taught the chosen seed, in the beginning how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos, or if Sion hill delight thee more, and Siloa's brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God. I thence invoke thy aid to my adventurous song, that with no middle flight intends to soar above Thonian mount, while it pursues things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. And chiefly thou, O Spirit, that dost prefer before all temples upright heart and pure, instruct me, for thou knowst, thou from the first wast present, and with mighty wings outspread dove-like satst brooding on the vast abyss and madst it pregnant, what in me is dark illumine, what is low raise and support, that to the height of this great argument I may assert eternal providence, and justify the ways of God to men. Say first, for heaven hides nothing from thy view nor the deep tract of hell, say first what cause moved our grandparents in that happy state, favored of heaven so highly, to fall off from their Creator, and transgress his will for one restraint, lords of the world besides. Who first subjected them to that foul revolt? Infernal serpent, he it was, whose guile stirred up with envy and revenge, deceived the mother of mankind, what time his pride had cast him out from heaven, with all his host of rebel angels, by whose aid aspiring to set himself in glory above his peers, he trusted to have equalled the Most High, if he opposed, and with ambitious aim against the throne and monarchy of God rised impious war in heaven and battle proud with vain attempt. Him the almighty power hurled headlong flaming from ethereal ski with hideous ruin and combustion down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire, who durst defy th omnipotent to arms. 9 times the space that measures day and night to mortal men, he with his horrid crew lay vanquished, rolling in the fiery gulf confounded though immortal, but his doom reserved him to more wrath, for now the thought both of lost happiness and lasting pain torments him, round he throws his baleful eyes that witnessed huge affliction and dismay mixed with obdurate pride and steadfast hate, at once as far as angels ken he views the dismal situation waste and wild, a dungeon horrible. On all sides round as one great furnace flammed, yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness visible served only to discover sights of woe, regions of sorrow, doleful shades, a peace and rest can never dwell, hope never comes that comes to all, but torture without end still urges, and a fiery deluge, fed with ever-burning sulphur unconsumed, such place eternal justice had prepared for those rebellious, here their prison ordained in utter darkness, and their portion set as far removed from God and light of heaven as from the centre thrice to th utmost pole. Oh, how unlike the place from whence they fell! There the companions of his fall, rewhelmed with floods and whirlwinds of tempestuous fire, he soon discerns, and weltering by his side one next himself in power, and next in crime, long after known in Palestine, and named Beelzebub. To whom th archenemy, and thence in heaven called Satan, with bold words breaking the horrid silence thus began. If thou bay'st he, but oh how fallen! How changed from him, who in the happy realms of light clothed thee with transcendent brightens didst outshine myriads though bright, if he whom mutual league, united thoughts and counsels, equal hope, and hazard in the glorious enterprise, joined with me once, now misery hath joined in equal ruin, into what pit thou seest from what height fallen, so much the stronger proved he with his thunder, and till then who knew the force of those dire arms. Yet not for those nor what the potent victor in his rage can else inflict do I repent or change, though changed in outward lustre, that fixed mind and high disdain, from sense of injured merit, that with the mightiest rised me to contend, and to the fierce contention brought along innumerable force of spirits armed that durst dislike his reign, and me preferring, his utmost power with adverse power opposed in dubious battle on the plains of heaven, and shook his throne. What though the field be lost? All is not lost, the unconquerable will, and study of revenge, immortal hate, and courage never to submit or yield, and what is else not to be overcome. That glory never shall his wrath or might extort from me. To bow and sue for grace with suppliant knee, and deify his power who from the terror of this arm so late doubted his empire, that were low indeed, that were an ignominy and shame beneath this downfall, since by fate the strength of gods and this empyreal substance cannot fail, since through experience of this great event in arms not worse, in foresight much advanced, we may with more successful hope resolve to wage by force or guile eternal war irreconcilable, to our grand foe, who now triumphs, and in th excess of joy soul reigning holds the tyranny of heaven. So spake th apostate angel, though in pain, vaunting aloud, but racked with deep despair, and him thus answered soon his bold compeer. O Prince, O Chief of many-throned powers, that led th embattled seraphim to war under thy conduct, and in dreadful deeds fearless, endangered heaven's perpetual King, and put to proof his high supremacy, whether upheld by strength, or chance, or fate, too well I see and rue the dire event, that with sad overthrow and foul defeat hath lost us heaven, and all this mighty host in horrible destruction laid thus low, as far as gods and heavenly essences can perish, for the mind and spirit remains invincible. And vigor soon returns, though all our glory extinct, and happy state here swallowed up in endless misery. But what if he our conqueror, whom I now of force believe almighty, since no less than such could have o'erpowered such force as ours, have left us this our spirit and strength entire strongly to suffer and support our pains, that we may so suffice his vengeful ire, or do him mightier service as his thralls by right of war, whate'er his business be here in the heart of hell to work in fire, or do his errands in the gloomy deep, what can it then avail though yet we feel strength undiminished? Or eternal being to undergo eternal punishment? Whereto with speedy words th archfiend replied. Fallen cherub, to be weak is miserable doing or suffering, but of this be sure, to do aught good never will be our task, but ever to do ill our sole delight, as being the contrary to his high will whom we resist. If then his providence out of our evil seek to bring forth good, our labour must be to pervert that end, and out of good still to find means of evil, which oft times may succeed, so as perhaps shall grieve him, if I fail not, and disturb his inmost counsels from their destined aim. But see, the angry victor hath recalled his ministers of vengeance and pursuit back to the gates of heaven, the sulphurous hail shot after us in storm, or blown hath laid the fiery surge, that from the precipice of heaven received us falling, and the thunder, winged with red lightning and impetuous rage, perhaps hath spent his shafts, and ceases now to bellow through the vast and boundless deep. Let us not slip to each occasion, whether scorn, or satiate fury yielded from our foe. Seest thou yon dreary plain, forlorn and wild, the seat of desolation, void of light, save what the glimmering of these livid flames casts pale and dreadful? Thither let us tend from off the tossing of these fiery waves, their rest, if any rest can harbour there, and reassembling our afflicted powers, consult how we may henceforth most offend our enemy, our own loss how repair, how overcome this dire calamity, what reinforcement we may gain from hope, if not what resolution from despair. Thus, Satan talking to his nearest mate with head uplift above the wave, and eyes that sparkling blast, his other parts besides prone on the flood, extended long and large lay floating many a rood, in bulk as huge as whom the fables name of monstrous size, Titanian, or earthborn, that warred on Jove, Briareos or Typhon, whom the den by ancient Tarsus held, or that sea beast Leviathan, which god of all his works created hugest that swim ocean stream. Him haply slumbering on the Norway foam the pilot of some small night-foundered skiff, deeming some island, oft, as seamen tell, with fixed anchor in his scaly rind moors by his side under the lee, while night invests the sea, and wished morn delays, so stretched out huge in length the arch-fiend lay chained on the burning lake, nor ever thence had risen or heaved his head, but that the will and high permission of all ruling heaven left him at large to his own dark designs, that with reiterated crimes he might heap on himself damnation, while he sought evil to others, and in rag might see how all his malice served but to bring forth infinite goodness, grace and mercy shown on man by him seduct, but on himself treble confusion, wrath and vengeance poured. Forthwith upright he rears from off the pool his mighty stature, on each hand the flames driven backward slope their pointing spires, and rolled in billows, leave ith midst a horrid vale. Then with expanded wings he steers his flight aloft, incumbent on the dusky air that felt unusual weight, till on dry land he lights, if it were land that ever burned with solid, as the lake with liquid fire, and such appeared in hue, as when the force of subterranean wind transports a hill torn from Pelorus, or the shattered side of thundering Etna, whose combustible and fueled entrails thence conceiving fire, sublimed with mineral fury, aid the winds, and leave a singed bottom all involved with stench and smoke, such resting found the sole of unblessed feet. Him followed his next mate, both glorying to have scapt the Stygian flood as gods, and by their own recovered strength, not by the sufferance of supernal power. Is this the region, this the soil, the clime, said then the lost archangel, this the seat that we must change for heaven, this mournful gloom for that celestial light? Be it so, since he who now is sovereign can dispose and bid what shall be right, furthest from him is best whom reason hath equalled, force hath made supreme above his equals. Farewell happy fields where joy for ever dwells, hail horrors, hail infernal world, and thou profoundest hell receive thy new possessor, one who brings a mind not to be changed by place or time. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. What matter where, if I be still the same, and what I should be, all but less than he whom thunder hath made greater. Here at least we shall be free, Th Almighty hath not built here for his envy, will not drive us hence, here we may reign secure, and in my choice to reign is worth ambition though in hell, better to reign in hell, than serve in heaven. But wherefore let we then our faithful friends, Th associates and co-partners of our loss lie thus astonished on Th oblivious pool, and call them not to share with us their part in this unhappy mansion, or once more with rallied arms to try what may be yet regained in heaven, or what more lost in hell? So Satan spake, and him Beelzebub thus answered. Leader of those armies bright, which but teach omnipotent none could have foiled, if once they hear that voice, their liveliest pledge of hope in fears and dangers, heard so oft in worst extremes, and on the perilous edge of battle when it ragged, in all assaults their surest signal, they will soon resume new courage and revive, though now they lie grovelling and prostrate on yon lake of fire, as we erewhile, astounded and amazed, no wonder, fallen such a pernicious height. He scarce had ceased when the superior fiend was moving toward the shore, his ponderous shield ethereal temper, massy, large and round, behind him cast, the broad circumference hung on his shoulders like the moon, whose orb through optic glass the Tuscan artist views at evening from the top of Thessaly, or in Valdarno, to descry new lands, rivers or mountains in her spotty globe. His spear, to equal which the tallest pine hewn on Norwegian hills, to be the mast of some great amiral, were but a wand, he walked with to support uneasy steps over the burning marl, not like those steps on heaven's azure, and the torrid climb smote on him sore besides, vaulted with fire, nathless he so ended, till on the beach of that inflamed sea, he stood and called his legions, angel forms, who lay entranced thick as autumnal leaves that strow the brooks in Volumbrosa, where Etrurian shades high over-arched embower, or scattered sedge afloat, when with fierce winds Orion armed hath vexed the Red Sea coast, whose waves o'er through Busiris and his Memphian chivalry, vile with perfidious hatred they pursued the sojourners of Goshen, who beheld from the safe shore their floating carcasses and broken chariot wheels, so thick bestrown abject and lost lay these, covering the flood, under amazement of their hideous change. He called so loud, that all the hollow deep of hell resounded. Princes, potentates, warriors, the floor of heaven, once yours, now lost, if such astonishment as this can settle eternal spirits, or have ye chosen this place after the toil of battle to repose your wearied virtue, for the ease you find to slumber here, as in the vales of heaven? Or in this abject posture have ye sworn to adore the conqueror, who now beholds cherub and seraph rolling in the flood with scattered arms and ensigns, till anon his swift pursuers from heaven gates discern each advantage, and descending tread us down thus drooping, or with linked thunderbolts transfix us to the bottom of this gulf. Awake, arise, or be forever fallen. They heard, and were abashed, and up they sprung upon the wing, as when men wont to watch on duty, sleeping found by whom they dread, rouse and bestir themselves ere well awake. Nor did they not perceive the evil plight in which they were, or the fierce pains not feel, yet to their general's voice they soon obeyed innumerable. As when the potent rod of Amram's son in Egypt's evil day waved round the coast, up-called a pitchy cloud of locusts, warping on the eastern wind, that all the realm of impious Pharaoh hung like night, and darkened all the land of Nile, so numberless were those bad angels seen hovering on wing under the cope of hell twixt upper, nether, and surrounding fires, till, as a signal given, th uplifted spear of their great sultan waving to direct their course. In even balance down they light on the firm brimstone, and fill all the plain, a multitude, like which the populous north poured never from her frozen loins, to pass Rena or the Danor, when her barbarous sons came like a deluge on the south, and spread beneath Gibraltar to the Libyan sands. Forthwith from every squadron and each band the heads and leaders thither hast where stood their great commander, godlike shapes and forms excelling human, princely dignities, and powers that erst in heaven sat on thrones, though of their names in heavenly records now be no memorial, blotted out and rasty by their rebellion, from the books of life. Nor had they yet among the sons of Eve got them new names, till wandering o'er the earth, through God's high sufferance for the trial of man, by falsities and lies the greatest part of mankind they corrupted to forsake God their Creator, and teach invisible glory of Him that made them, to transform oft to the image of a brute, adorned with gay religions full of pomp and gold, and devils to adore for deities. Then were they known to men by various names, and various idols through the heathen world. Say, Muse, their names then known, who first, who last, rude from the slumber, on that fiery couch, at their great emperor's call, as next in worth came singly where he stood on the bare strand, while the promiscuous crowd stood yet aloof. The chief were those who from the pit of hell roaming to seek their prey on earth, durst fix their seats long after next the seat of God, their altars by his altar, gods adored among the nations round, and durst abide Jehovah thundering out of Sion, throned between the cherubim, yea, often placed within his sanctuary itself their shrines, abominations, and with cursed things his holy rites, and solemn feasts profaned, and with their darkness durst affront his light. First Moloch, horrid king besmeared with blood of human sacrifice, and parents' tears, though for the noise of drums and timbrels loud their children's cries unheard, that passed through fire to his grim idol. Him the Ammonite worshipped in Rabbah and her watery plain, in Argob and in Bashan, to the stream of utmost Arnon. Nor content with such audacious neighborhood, the wisest heart of Solomon he led by fraud to build his temple right against the temple of God on that opprobrious hill, and made his grove the pleasant valley of Hinnom, Tophet thence and black Gehenna called, the type of hell. Next Chemos, teach obscene dread of Moab's sons, from Aroer to Nebo, and the wild of southmost Obarim, in Heshbon and Horonaim, Sin's realm, beyond the flowery dale of Sibmah clad with vines, and Elil to Th asphaltic pool. Peor his other name, when he entered Israel in Sittim on their march from Nile to do him wanton rites, which cost them woe. Yet thence his lustful orgies he enlarged even to that hill of scandal, by the grove of Moloch homicide, lust hard by hate, till good Josiah drove them thence to hell. With these came they, who from the bordering flood of old Euphrates to the brook that parts Egypt from Syrian ground, had general names of Baalim and Ashtaroth, those male, these feminine. For spirits when they please can either sex assume, or both, so soft and uncompounded is their essence pure, not teed or manacled with joint or limb, nor founded on the brittle strength of bones, like cumbrous flesh, but in what shape they choose dilated or condensed, bright or obscure, can execute their eerie purposes, and works of love or enmity fulfill. For those the race of Israel oft forsook their living strength, and unfrequented left his righteous altar, bowing lowly down to bestial gods, for which their heads as low bowed down in battle, sunk before the spear of despicable foes. With these in troop came Astoreth, whom the Phoenicians called Astarte, Queen of Heaven, with crescent horns, to whose bright image nightly by the moon's Sidonian virgins paid their vows and songs, in Sion also not unsung, where stood her temple on Th offensive mountain, built by that uxorious king, whose heart though large, beguiled by fair idolatresses, fell to idols foul. Thammuz came next behind, whose annual wound in Lebanon allured the Syrian damsels to lament his fate in amorous ditties all a summer's day, while smooth Adonis from his native rock ran purple to the sea, supposed with blood of Thammuz yearly wounded, the love-tale infected Sion's daughters with like heat, whose wanton passions in the sacred porch Ezekiel saw, when by the vision led his eye surveyed the dark idolatries of alienated Judah. Next came one who mourned in earnest, when the captive ark maimed his brute image, head and hands lopped off in his own temple, on the Grunsel edge, where he fell flat, and shammed his worshippers, Dagon his name, sea monster, upward man and downward fish, yet at his temple high reared in Azotus, dreaded through the coast of Palestine, in Gath and Ascalon, and Acharon and Gaza's frontier bounds. Him followed Rimmon, whose delightful seat was fair Damascus, on the fertile banks of Abana and Pharpar, lucid streams. He also against the house of God was bold, a leper once he lost and gained a king, Ahaz his sottish conqueror, whom he drew God's altar to disparage and displace for one of Syrian mode, whereon to burn his odious offerings, and adore the gods whom he had vanquished. After these appeared a crew who under names of old renown, Osiris, Isis, Aru and their train with monstrous shapes and sorceries busti fanatic Egypt and her priests, to seek their wandering gods disguised in brutish forms rather than human. Nor did Israel scape Th infection when their borrowed gold compassed the calf in Oreb, and the rebel king doubled that sin in Bethel and in Dan, likening his maker to the grazed ox, Jehovah, who in one night when he passed from Egypt marching, equalled with one stroke both her firstborn and all her bleating gods. Belial came last, than whom a spirit more lewd fell not from heaven, or more gross to love vice for itself.